sometimes we go through something, sometimes we're suffering, but the biggest illusion of the material world is that we're the only ones. And actually, everyone is going through it, and we all need each other. You're not alone. You're not the only person.
Welcome back to the Here For Now podcast, guys. Episode 8. So happy to be back. And a Merry Christmas as well to everybody who's tuning in. So the Christmas period, it's a celebration of family, food. Some might say the spiritual aspect is lacking nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think of that.
If you've ever been out on Boxing Day, you'll know that it's not become such a spiritual activity anymore. Yeah, it's become commercialized. You know? What do you think?
Black Friday.
And there's so much advertisement, so much hype for this one day or 1 or 2 days, and then there's a big feast, massive meal. And sometimes it's nice, you get together with family, and sometimes it's lonely for people, sometimes it's underwhelming. Yeah, for myself, I've always felt a little bit underwhelmed by it, but this year was nice.
How come you felt underwhelmed?
Well, I just felt like there's this massive hype, all these TV shows, every single song on the radio, and then the actual day comes. I'm from a Jewish background as well, so we didn't celebrate it properly, but we have a massive feast with all the family. Everyone has some drinks, some food, and it just never really lives up to expectation. So,
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I kind of, I loved Christmas, actually. Yeah, now it's a bit, well, it's not anticlimactic. It's lovely to see friends, lovely to see family. But, yeah, the nostalgia and excitement that I felt with, like, Father Christmas coming and all that, all of that stuff. Christmas songs as well. Driving Home for Christmas, Chris Rea. I don't know if you know that song. Anyway, it's a classic. I guess you didn't have access to all this stuff, Abby, because you didn't celebrate. Did you? You didn't celebrate Christmas, right?
No, I come from a Muslim background, so I always, yeah, like Joseph was saying, I'd watch on the TV shows and the movies or the Christmas episodes, and you get excited because it's a special episode coming out for Christmas, and there'd be some special storyline, or the Christmas songs would come out, and I guess I actually always developed like a little bit of a jealousy towards people who got to celebrate Christmas. It's a huge thing. Even though I grew up in the Middle East, it's still, you know, everyone knows what's happening. But my family obviously wasn't celebrating, and it looked really fun. And then I remember one year, one of my friends, his Christian friends, who celebrate, and they had a big extended family that lived in the area, and some of them would even fly in, and they would always have this big Christmas celebration at their house with all their family and everything, and I'd hear about it. So one year they started inviting me. So they would invite me to their family's Christmas celebration. And
because they knew you felt a bit left out.
Maybe they felt I felt a bit. Maybe I made it clear. I don't know. I can't remember. But I started going, and then I was like, "Wow, it's so exciting!" But yeah, I guess it was a bit of a letdown in one sense when you see that. I mean, everyone's just really getting drunk, like really drunk, and you see, obviously, it's really fun that people give out the gifts and everything like that. But then you think about like the parents, how much money you spend on Christmas, and I mean, if you just go outside and speak to people, you know, by Christmas time they're broke. In January, everyone's broke, you know, dead broke, because obviously, even though everyone's conscious of it, the commercialization of Christmas, still at the same time, people are caught in the web, you know, and everyone else is buying them gifts, so they have to buy everyone gifts. It's just something you have to do, even though everyone's conscious and everyone knows how much it's been commercialized, but it's just something you have to do, you know. And I buy gifts for all these people, so these, you know, few people, I can't leave them out, so I have to buy gifts for them too, and my friends, and, you know, anyone I see at the Christmas party. I mean, I remember even I went to these Christmas parties and they would get me a gift, because otherwise I would have been the only one who didn't get any gifts. So it's like all this money you have to spend for a little bit of material joy. But that being said, they were really fun parties. I mean, I had a lot of fun and connected with people more on deep levels. And I think in anything you can take it as an opportunity for bonding. That's for sure. I mean, we do also. Every Christmas we all get together and we cook a big feast and we eat together, and that's amazing. But you can do that any day, really. You can do that throughout the year, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, could you not say that? I was going to say on that last point, I was thinking as you were speaking, could you not say that that is actually quite spiritual, isn't it? Getting together with family and so on. Yeah, just sharing time with people, connecting deeply with people. Could you say that's spiritual, or it's still missing the point of the original Christmas tradition in one sense, of course? But I mean, my friend, I have a very good friend who would often say to me that raving is very spiritual. You know, gathering with a lot of people, just a heavy bass line. Yeah, like a heavy bass line. Everyone dancing, feeling joyful. You know, there's something tribal about it, something spiritual about it. And you could say, yeah, Christmas, there's still something spiritual about it. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I heard a story once. Someone was telling me, someone who is, a very spiritual person, was telling me this story that before he ever got into meditation and yoga and this whole world, he was speaking to somebody he worked with at a restaurant. I think he was a waiter. And they were talking about some Lady Gaga song. And they were just speaking about this song that came out. It was in the top 40 and everybody was listening to it. I can't remember which song it was. But then someone made a remix of the song. And then in this conversation, some guy who was, part of this conversation, he said, yeah, I like the remix because it's a lot more spiritual. It just has a spiritual feeling to it. And then this person who was telling me the story, he somehow, some kind of intuition he had, and he felt that it was a bit silly, what this person is saying. And then that actually sparked up the question in him, that what is actually spirituality? What does it actually mean? What does it mean for something to be spiritual? Is that song actually more spiritual? And if so, why? Or if not, why? And what is the difference between spirit and matter, So that actually led him to embark on this search. And once, it was obviously one small thing out of many things that probably happened during that time, but that was one catalyst, and it pushed him to kind of think a little bit more. Okay, people talk about this is so spiritual. I feel so spiritual. This song is so spiritual, but what does actually mean spirituality? And yeah, I mean, anything can be spiritual. Anything has the potential because you're a spiritual being. You're a spiritual being who can have a spiritual experience anywhere. But I guess that depends on you. It depends on your consciousness, your level of understanding, your level of realization.
There's also a lot of charity work done normally around Christmas. I remember being at a Christmas ball last year, and they're raising money and then feeding about 1,000 people a day. They're all going out, all like the CEOs of companies going out personally, giving charity. Would you say that's spiritual, giving charity?
What do you think?
I wouldn't say spiritual. I would say in the mode of goodness, maybe, in terms of seeing everyone as equal beings. So you want to feed and protect everyone. But I guess you're seeing everyone on the physical platform or mental platform. We did meet someone, because we've been going out in the Christmas period and distributing books and just meeting people all around the country, explaining this higher philosophy of back to yoga. We met this one person, you were there, Sister, what's the name, Sister Pat?
Sister Pat, yeah, she was amazing, Sister Pat.
She told us this story of, we said to her, oh, do you believe in the power of prayer? She's like, I want to tell you a story about prayer. And then she goes, it was Christmas last year or the year before, I don't remember. And she says, I wanted all these items for the dinner. I wanted Caribbean rice, I wanted jerk chicken, I wanted...
I had a very different image of Sister Pat in my mind.
She wanted what else? Like all these, like a yogurt dish, all these things, all these preparations. And she said that I just didn't have it on time, and so I just prayed. I prayed really hard, and I called the God, the Creator. I was praying to the Creator, please can I have all these preparations ready for Christmas? And then she goes out to the nearest shelter, homeless shelter or food shelter. All the preparation she wanted was there. And then she was like, that's when I already knew there was a Creator. And so we were speaking about this recently of knowing God or divinity through the physical things, through mental things. So I guess if you have that consciousness of charity, but, you know, saying, well, this food is coming from a higher source. It's not just nature. It's, you know, everything works so perfectly. My dad was telling me recently that a bird, when it eats a piece of fruit or something and leaves just a seed, then picks up the seed and plants it basically for the next tree to grow. So he's saying, you know, it's not an accident. Everything works in order. It's arranged somehow. Matter doesn't come from matter. It comes from life, you know. A lot of life comes from life. You know? So.
Wow, that's so nice.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
That's such a nice story.
Sister Pat, she was amazing.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It was also funny though, because when she was telling the story, she had quite a dramatic build-up, and so she was having a really difficult Christmas, and her and her family, you know, I think they wanted to cook something, but it went wrong somehow. Either they didn't have the ingredients, or something went wrong with their oven, something like this. And she had this whole kind of really spiritual build-up, and kind of building up to the fact that eventually she just turned to God for shelter and for some solace. And she said, I looked up at this guy, and I started to pray, and I said, please let me have some jerk chicken, some, you know, rice and peas, and she listed off all these things, and it was like, wow, that was I mean, it was really funny when it happened. But at the same time, you're totally right. It's very deep, actually, that if you can add that connection to anything, that spiritual connection. I mean, first of all, the fact that she's looking to some kind of spiritual source, some kind of higher power in order to come to that goal, that's already something quite powerful. You're looking, not looking externally, but looking within for something. And then also, that charity can be done in a spiritual way, seeing that everything ultimately comes from God, and we're all connected, we're all friends, we're all brothers and sisters in that light. So therefore, we should help each other. We should be charitable and help each other, you know, especially during difficult times like winter, when Christmas is happening. Lots of people, I mean, you know, I always used to wonder what happens to all these homeless people when it gets cold, you know. It gets difficult. It gets really difficult. Some people are out there trying to help them, which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Yeah, my family, I was at home the last couple of days, my family was speaking a lot about that, actually, volunteering and charity and the importance of doing all of that sort of thing. Yeah, I think we've spoken on previous episodes about, like you said, charity in the mode of goodness, etc. You know, that it is amazing, obviously, doing that, and it's needed, but it's still on the material. Even though it's wonderful, it's still on the material platform. And yeah, I like what you just said, that doing anything, adding that spiritual aspect, infuses it with God and miracles, actually. And meeting so many people throughout the past month, I mean, it's a little experiment in that, because we're absorbed in trying to share spiritual knowledge. So in every moment we were spiritually absorbed in one sense, because we're trying to serve divinity, we're trying to serve people by giving them access to that divinity. And yeah, these miracles, like Sister Pat experience, just happen every day. It's just incredible. Like, incredible. I mean, I met this one guy. In fact, before I met this one guy, I was on Brick Lane. There's a market every Sunday on Brick Lane, and so we'd set up a little table there, me and my friend Matsia, excuse me, and it started to rain in the afternoon, so we had to move the table. So we picked up the table, we moved it like maybe, I don't know, just under a mile down the road. There's a bridge. We took some shelter there, set up the book tables, kept distributing. It started getting dark. And I really started to need a toilet. And just around the corner is this bar. And I knew there's a toilet inside. So I went and I opened the door. And just as I opened the door, there was this young, sort of like late 20s, white guy, very well spoken. He looked at me, he was rolling a cigarette, and he said, are you Krishna? Are you anyway, this sort of thing. I was like, yeah. I practice Bhakti, Krishna consciousness, you know this. He was like, oh, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. I was like, oh, I said, that's lovely. I was like, I'm just going up to the loo. If you want to wait outside for me, I'll come out and we can have a chat. He was like, yeah, sure, I'd love that. I was like, okay. So anyway, went to the loo, came out, and he was sitting there outside the front of the bar at a table with his beer and his cigarette. And I just sat opposite him, and I said, "So how did you come to discover Bhakti?" And he said, "Well, last summer I was going through a really difficult time. I was coming out of Oxford Street Station, Oxford Circus, and there was this skinny French monk standing there. And I started speaking with him. And by the end of this conversation I'd had with him, it was like the clouds had parted and I felt happy again for the first time in such a long time." He said, "You see, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, and I struggled with that for a very long time. But when I spoke with this man, I felt fine for the first time in a very long time. And since then, I've joined 12 Steps program, I've been doing that, and he said to me, he was like, and I've just been 28 days sober." And I was like, wow. And then he said, "But last night I went to a Christmas party, and I said I was just going to have one drink, but one drink turned into many, and I haven't stopped since last night." And I was like, oh, so sad, you know. And but I said to him, "Wow, you know, you're 28 days sober. That's incredible. You've proven that you can do it." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It was like, I just don't know what to do. I don't want to be doing this." It's amazing. People that are alcoholics, like serious alcoholics, they can be completely drunk but seem perfectly sober when they're speaking, just completely functional. He just seemed like completely normal, but he was obviously so drunk, you know. Anyway, I said to him, I was like, "Do you know how much God loves you?" Like, I was just thinking, do you know how much God loves you? Like last year when you were feeling terrible, you met this man, this monk, who gave you some hope. And then a year later, well, actually, I should say, so he said to me, he was like, "Okay, last night I got very drunk at this Christmas party. I haven't stopped drinking since then." But he also said when he woke up that morning, he left the house and he was walking through London and he saw me. He just saw me with a couple of monks. And he thought, "Oh, I want to go and speak to him. I want to go and speak to that person." But he didn't come over and speak to me. He said the devil on his shoulder told him to go straight to the pub and to keep drinking, which he did. Anyway, so I said, "Do you know how much God loves you? Like last year you met this monk." And I said, "And this morning, you even saw me this morning. You didn't come and say hello to me. You went straight to drink in some random pub bar in Brick Lane. And then I was up 1 mile up the road. It started raining, moved my table down, needed the toilet. At the exact moment I opened the door, you happened to be coming out." You know, it's like, do you know how, it's so mystical, you know, it's, you know, he showed such sincerity for 28 days. Anyway, I was just like, anyway, I mean, he said to me, he was like, "I want to leave this place." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Shall I go? And I'll come back in 15 minutes. If you're still here, I can drag you out." and he was like, "Yeah, please do that." I was like, "Okay." So I went away, came back 15 minutes later. He was on the phone. I was like, "Okay, cool." Came back 15 minutes after that, and he wasn't outside. So I opened the door, and he was in the corner. I had like, just drinking, like, just had all these beers. And yeah, I just said to him, I was like, "I thought you were leaving." And he said, "Yeah, so did I." I was like, "Do you want to come with me?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, let's go." So he came with me. I took him around the corner and showed him some of these spiritual books. And he took one and we had a nice conversation. I mean, yeah, I don't know, I just thought this is such it's just such a clear example of there being some immediate reciprocation with something beyond our understanding. Like, as in he's someone who's drowning materially and he's completely entangled materially. Like, yeah, this man, he said to me, he was like, when he stops drinking, he just turns to other things, like pornography, like this, like that, you know. He said, "All I've been doing all day is watching porn and drinking." Like, I just thought, yeah, it was just such a clear example of how impossible it is to satiate your desires, materially speaking. Like, you put down one thing, and you feel those, you pick up another thing, and then you finish, you exhaust that, and you pick up the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and so on. It's like, and yeah, unless you actually get a higher taste for something immaterial, then it's very hard to put down anything. You know,
that's why the 12-step program helped him so much, because I don't know if you ever speak to someone who's done 12-step or AA or NA or one of these programs. There's quite a heavy influence of spiritual principles, finding some kind of higher power, depending on that higher power, and connecting with the other people that are in the program, having like a real bond, a real connection. And also one that I found out about recently was they also have this principle of humility, like understanding that none of the progress you make is up to you. It's actually all based on the help you're getting. None of it is you. And they develop this real sense of humility. Like you talk to them, you tell them, wow, it's so amazing that you did this. And I can't believe you made it. And they say, no, it's not. None of it was thanks to me. It was all thanks to, the people I was hanging out with, or the leader of the group, or whoever started 12 Step. You pass on the result to someone else, which is such a prominent principle in Bhakti yoga. Like that's such a huge thing. And they must have just figured it out somehow. Either they, read these books and also, heard about it and applied it, or they figured it out by trial and error. But, it's amazing that that's the only way you can really make real progress. And like you're saying, like satisfy that hole in your heart, that's, you keep trying to fill it up with material things. And some people get such a deep, like, desire to satisfy their yearning through material things, and they become so addicted because for them there's nothing more to life, or the things they're trying to use to satisfy their desires are on a lower platform, so it's easy to become very addicted. But yeah, it's amazing that spiritual aspect is like really the missing link, that people, they try to quit alcohol or drugs or whatever, and it's just impossible. It's so difficult. I mean, I know I used to smoke cigarettes, and I used to drink a lot of alcohol, smoke cigarettes, do drugs, everything. But obviously cigarettes is one of those that everyone knows it's really difficult to give up. Like it's almost like practically impossible, You either give it up and then you pick it up again, or you end up vaping or one of these other things. It's like so impossible to give up smoking. I don't know many people. I maybe know one or two people that have actually quit. But for me, I was able to quit immediately only when I took up spiritual practice. Yeah. It was actually almost effortless. Almost effortless. I also read a book that really helped.
What was it called? Plug.
Yeah, I should plug this book. It's called Easy Way to Quit Smoking by Alan Carr, I think.
It's not by Alan Carr.
It is a different Alan Carr, not the comedian. Different guy who's not on the planet anymore. He was an expert. He had these clinics all over the world where he would use different techniques of hypnosis, but also counseling and all this kind of stuff. And it had a more than 95% success rate. People that came in and actually quit smoking for life. 95%. And then those who, that 5% that ended up smoking again, if you include those who came back after that and tried again, then it was like very close to 100%, So then he also wrote this book, which is basically applying all those things that he would use in his clinic. And it's amazing. It just rewires your brain and convinces you to understand that you don't actually like smoking. It's a ridiculous habit. And you could probably apply the same logic to most of the things that we do in life. I mean, all the different things that we try to, use to satisfy our deep yearning in our heart.
Yeah.
Probably most of them, like, all these different video games and things. I mean, some of them are great, but some things are really kind of unhealthy habits.
It's like, the Christmas period, and especially in the UK, it gets cold, it gets dark early. It's a really tough time for people. I mean, if you're an addict, obviously, but for everybody in one sense, like general mood, people oftentimes tend to decline, and then you turn to all these things. I mean, even like they call it cuffing season, don't they? I don't know if you guys have heard that.
What does that mean?
Okay, cuffing season, people say, which is like there's like a period of time where it's like it's an ideal time to get into a relationship.
So you're not lonely.
Yeah,
so you're not on your own at Christmas.
Season, so it's like cuffing, all of these things, So what do you guys think? Like, do you have any? What are the solutions? What's the way not to fall foul of this habit of everybody to, turn to things that are not necessarily productive or helpful in the long term during these periods? What should you be doing? Where should you be going?
I wanted to say actually what I found interesting about the story you gave as well, which is related to the question, is that although that person was deep in drinking, pornography, all these things, he wasn't in denial that it wasn't good for him. Yeah. It sounded like okay, I know this is bad for me. I'm doing my 12-step program. I've fallen back, but I know that this is just not good for me. Whereas, you meet so many people who are just okay with that life, and they think that that is happiness. They work very hard, and then they have these small glimpses of pleasures and happiness, and then they're in denial that they're actually not happy. They're not fulfilled. Even myself, before getting into spirituality, I was smoking weed like every day, and I was like, this is just who I am. I'm just that guy who does that. I just like listening to Bob Marley, smoking weed. And I'm just happy, but I actually wasn't happy.
You had a Rastafari phase.
I did, yeah, I literally did. But
Did you have dreads also?
No, but I did grow my hair quite long, and like a Jew-fro. But my point is that actually I was getting less happy.
You really got along with Sister Pat.
Yeah, I would have done actually. Yeah, wish I met her a few years earlier. But yeah, I guess my point is though I knew I wasn't. I wasn't actually happy, and the more I engaged in that, the less happy I got, and the more dependent I got. And it wasn't until I got to a point of like, okay, it was actually my sister that saw me doing it, and she's like, what are you doing? Like, you're brought up in a good family, what are you doing with your life? And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not happy. And I had to come to that realization and just say it, like, I'm not happy. And then from then I could start searching for spiritual knowledge. And then I did. I started going to meditation groups and things like this. But similarly, in the modern day, I meet so many people, I know family members and things that just say, I'm just mentally ill. It's just who I am. I just need anxiety pills, and that's just who I am, just me. But actually, you're not accepting the fact that you could be happy by actually sincerely looking for a process to make you happy. You're just in denial, essentially. Because there's a time that we were all happy. You can remember times where you were happy.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever spoke about it on this podcast. Maybe I have. I don't want to repeat myself. But I was one of those people that was on, medication for mental health and all these things. I never imagined it because my whole childhood I was always kind of a simple person, always very happy, always having fun with friends and everything. I mean, I guess I was hiding a lot of my struggles, but I ended up having these weird kind of symptoms that started coming up, which later I understood to be probably mostly from overuse of drugs and kind of, like I say, lower vibrating activities just in general, which kind of put you in a lower vibration, and automatically these different energies, you're more susceptible to them. But anyway, I was one of those people, and I was in that scenario where I was basically being told in one way or another, well, it was quite clear. I was being told that this is who you are. This is based on chemicals that are in your body that you can't control, that at least we don't have any control of now. And you have to take this medication, and that's the only way to solve this. I was even in a situation where the first time I ever visited a psychiatrist, confirmed, the first time I ever visited a psychiatrist, I went into the room and I thought I was going to have this kind of deep conversation or figure out why this is going on. But he again asked me, okay, so what's the problem? What's going on? I explained to him some of the symptoms I was experiencing, some things that were coming up that I was feeling that were quite foreign to me. Like I never felt this kind of thing before, different emotions that would come up. And then at one point he goes, okay, I know what to do. And he starts writing some stuff down, some prescriptions. And I go, well, I also wanted to say, and he cuts me off. He goes, do you want me to get rid of the symptoms or not? Like that. And I go, well, yeah, I do. He goes, okay, don't worry, I know what to do. And he writes it down and gives me the paper and sends me out. And this was like, I thought I was going to be in there for like an hour. I was going to really be able to explain myself. And because it was I had never spoken to friends about this. I thought it was so strange. Or maybe I did a couple of people, but it was still something which was really untouched, So I thought I'd be able to finally work through it, verbally, and hear from a professional what it really means, why these things are happening. It was so confusing to me that I was experiencing these things. And then it just 10 minutes into the meeting, that happened. Just maybe less than 10 minutes. He's like, listen, do you want me to get rid of this or not?
So sad.
Okay, let me write this down for you. Go get your prescription, And then, of course, he recommended me. He said, you also need to, do therapy once a week. And he recommended me. He said, really, the best person for you is the guy down the hall, who's my colleague. That's really the most compatible person for you. He's like, yeah, okay, you obviously are sharing a building and work together. But, yeah, I mean, I tried it, but that was right before I kind of started to embark on the whole spiritual thing. And it's just crazy how through some practice, which obviously we see as non-material, it's a non-material activity you can take up, to, transcendental meditation, chanting mantra, all that kind of stuff, is all these things which are seen as physical makeup. This is your chemical makeup. You can't change it. This is who you are. Sorry, Actually, you can completely get rid of all those symptoms. Totally. I mean, I haven't experienced anything like that in years. So, yeah, that's the message to anyone out there. It's actually possible. All these people are confused. They're very confused. Yeah. Society is confusing them, thinking that that's just who they are and there's nothing they can do about it. Maybe they tried different things, but when you try a non-material process, something which is beyond the body and mind just follow. They follow along. Whatever your spirit is engaging in. I find that quite powerful.
It's amazing.
It's sad that people don't know,
Yeah, it's true. I think, you spoke a little bit about that on the first episode, but you didn't go into such detail. And no, I relate to that as well. Like, I also experienced a long period where I was definitely mentally experiencing a very difficult period. Like, just a lot of anxiety and anyway, a lot. Like, I'd wake up at night like cold sweats and this sort of thing. Like, it was a really tough time. And until I took up spiritual practice in earnest. I say this to so many people I meet because it literally happens to me. It's like de-weeding the garden. Like, it's like someone put their hand inside my head and started just ripping out these weeds. And miraculously, like you said, it's not a physical collection of different chemicals that form a pill that you take every morning, but that's the solution. That like treats a symptom rather than the root cause of anyone suffering. All those things, like, it's just like a band-aid, isn't it? But if you actually go to the roots of who you are, which is a spiritual being, and like you said, and you start to work in accordance with that nature, and like you said, the body and mind follow. And it's very real and possible. But having said that, I do notice that when I'm, even these past few days, like when I'm not absorbed in a spiritual environment, that my mind can, not to the same extent, but it can be unruly sometimes.
Yeah.
When I'm not around, when I'm not surrounded by spiritual people, when I'm not in an environment where I can do things that are uplifting and energizing and in alignment with how I as an individual want to act and want to contribute to people and to society. So when I'm not living in harmony with my own nature, then I find that, these things can come up again, actually. I think that's the same for anybody. We're all different. We're all individuals. We all have something different that we can contribute. But for most of us, we're kind of square pegs in round holes. Like, we'll live our lives according to what someone else has told us we should be doing rather than what we actually might deem important. And if something feels a little off, then we just push it to the side and pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to actually acknowledge that we're living our lives according to someone else's scripts, basically.
I developed this kind of, I guess it was like a line that I sort of developed because we were out, as you mentioned, this month, doing these different book tables around London, distributing spiritual books, Bhagavad Gita, and all these different texts, that can change the world. I mean, definitely they have the power to change people's hearts. And sometimes you meet people that they make it clear to you that they're going through it. And sometimes they don't really want to explain it. They don't want to explain themselves so much, but they kind of give you a look like, you know what, I really needed this. And the way they say it, you can just, it immediately pierces your heart. It's like, wow, this person is really going through something. But I started to develop this line where I tell people, I say, listen, and I started saying it the exact same way every time because I felt that it was, kind of a clear way of portraying what I was thinking. And I'd say, listen, I'm not a very special person. I'm not very intelligent. But one piece of advice that I can give is that sometimes we go through something. Sometimes we're suffering. But the biggest illusion of the material world is that we're the only ones. And actually, everyone is going through it. And we all need each other. Ultimately, you know, you're not alone. You're not the only person. And when you'd say that, people would really appreciate it. Sorry for, I keep hitting your mic. People really appreciate it when you say that, because I think society's the whole time, their whole life is telling them the opposite. You know, they go on social media, everyone's really happy, everyone's having a great time. You know, they see people making money. Obviously, when you go on social media, usually you're seeing the more successful people, business owners and so on. And I always found it silly, this whole thing about business owners. They always go on Instagram and tell everyone, you know, if you're poor, you should just start a business like me. But it just doesn't work like that. People's brains don't, not everyone's brain works in that way where they can manage things and so on. Some people are different, you know, everybody's different. And I know I wouldn't be satisfied running a business. It's just not who I am. My nature is totally different from that. So yeah, society is always telling them that basically it's wrong for them to be depressed, you know, and actually it's not. Everyone's going through it. I mean, in one sense you could say it is, because naturally we should be happy, but everyone else is going through it. Everyone's going through it. And now it's jumping to the opposite side of the spectrum, because now people, especially in like the wellness kind of area, are telling everyone to embrace that side of yourself and accept it. And all those things are true. We should do those things. But the way that it's being taught is more almost stopping people from trying to get out of it, you know, because they accept it, but they accept it so much that they accept it as, this is who I am. Like, kind of like what you were saying, this is just who I am, and I'm not going to get out of it, actually. And just, I have to accept myself. And, you know, you should accept who you are and what your situation is, for sure. But you should try and get out of it and know that there's a way to get out of it, you know, at the same time. So sometimes you meet people and they're like, well, I'm just depressed. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. It's just who I am. I've tried everything. I'm just a depressed person. And they're always talking about it. They become absorbed in that consciousness that I'm a depressed person, you know. It becomes a sense of identity almost. I've actually been there myself, you know. So, yeah, it's crazy. So people are confused. People are very confused.
So many people also, they'll say, I'll say, oh, have you tried meditation before? And they're like, oh, I've got ADHD.
Yeah, exactly.
So many people
say that. Yeah,
it's like 99.9% of the population now have ADHD.
Feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum, isn't it? But anyway, but yeah, so many people say that, like you said, it's an pillar of their identity, and you, oh, I can't do meditation because I've got ADHD. Therefore, it's like, so how do you snap people out of that, where they identify so strongly with something? Like,
one thing I was saying to people in the streets was that your internal world affects your external world. So that's one way I was explaining karma. You know, if you're having deep realizations within, externally, you're going to see life in a different way. But I think in the modern day, people try and make their external world match their internal world. So they try and get like a really amazing job, lots of money, lots of amazing food, and they think that that's going to make them happy. But really, they're doing things the wrong way around. Actually, internally, when you have some realization of who we are, why we're here, and see things in a light of meaning and purpose, then externally, your life, you have that lens on of goodness, of happiness, of things like this. Whereas, we're externally trying to manifest that and to create an internal emotion, which is very fleeting. Is what one thing I was saying to people in the streets. If they ask me about karma or things like this, that's the one way I would go about explaining it. That's
an amazing explanation. I never thought about things like that, but that's a beautiful way to explain it. Sounds like a Studio 8 talk in there. You come up with something that's really nice. Yeah, cultivate the internal atmosphere first. The external follows. If you do it the other way around, it just never works. Yeah, because the external can't penetrate the soul. You know, it can't go in.
Yeah, you just do the outside first. It's like It's like in the Bible, isn't it? It's like building a house on the sand. Do you know this story?
No, but I'm thinking of a different one, but go for that one first.
What one are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of the Tower of Babel one, where they try and build a tower up to heaven through material means, and then they all fall down, speak different languages.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice one.
But you go for your one.
Well, no, I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly, but essentially it's there's a man who builds a house on rock, there's a man who builds a house on sand.
Oh, I do know this one. Yeah, I remember this.
And there's one other material.
There's one on like clear grass, and then one on like a thorny bush. So like the one on clear grass grows, the one in thorns.
That's a slightly different story, but
it?
this is a good one. Yeah, carry on.
So I think it was a thorny bush, one on a rock, one on like between a rock and some grass. Depending on the foundation, you see how much it grows. So if you have a foundation of goodness, which is just clear grass, you're clear-minded, then you can actually grow a flower. You can ask the deep questions about life, etc. If it's in a thorny situation, then you might have conflict in your life and all these things, and you won't really grow properly. So you see these different environments internally affects your external growth. Actually, I don't know if that wasn't the one you were thinking of. There was.
No, but it serves the same purpose. It's like, it's also like when you're planting. Because when one is trying to share a message for the upliftment of someone else, you're trying to plant a seed in their heart. Like that. And so it's the same idea, like, because some of our hearts are more fertile ground for receiving seeds of knowledge, basically. And some of us are less willing to hear that. But if we're, like you said, if we have like fertile soil, so we're willing to hear and change internally, then those seeds of knowledge can start to grow and develop. And we met so many people this past month. You can pray that all of them will benefit from putting into practice something from the books that they received and read. But it's dependent on one's willingness, like you said, to develop the internal space, basically.
To your question about what do you say to someone who says, "Oh, I have ADD and therefore I can't do anything," I was thinking that, because you were asking how do you snap them out of it, which is a great question. But then also you can't really snap them out of it. You have to sort of. There's this beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says that those people who are, I'm paraphrasing now heavily, but essentially it says that those people who are not in knowledge of spirituality, don't disturb them, and don't try and tell them that what they're doing is wrong. Just try to engage them positively in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti yoga. And so, for example, someone in that case says, "Oh, I can't do meditation, I can't be spiritual, I have ADD." You say, "Oh, well, that's okay. You're right, actually, that's totally fine. But here's something for people who have ADD. You can chant mantra. But chanting mantra is so much easier. You get engaged in the sound. If someone's really got serious ADD, you can just do kirtan, where the music is, everyone loves listening to music. It doesn't matter how bad your ADD is. You're not going to say, "Oh, I have ADD, I can't listen to music," So you give them something that they can connect with, and then they just slowly move from that level up, But you meet them where they're at, and you give them something that they can do. Because in Bhakti Yoga, there's something for everyone. There's so many different activities you can do that connect you with that, spiritual sound somehow or other. So, and then gradually they snap out of it. You see people over time, completely transform their whole personality. They stay the same person. They don't turn into someone else, but their character develops and their qualities improve, and they become so selfless and compassionate, and their ability to retain knowledge, or their ability to, fight against their ADD, like sit still and be centered, and you find their gravity. You see it time and time again. It's quite amazing. Yeah,
that's nice.
It'd be nice if you could just say something like the perfect sentence and snap them out of it immediately.
Some people are that person that they can.
Some people can do it. Yeah, I've seen
it. And that's the beauty of bhakti, isn't it? And the principle of bhakti, it's a principle of bhakti, isn't it? It's like, because my grandfather at Christmas dinner the other day, he asked me, he was asking about this philosophy, so I was explaining Sanatan Dharma to him. Sanatan Dharma means your eternal occupation, so I heard it explained nicely in a class the other day that, you could be a nurse, a teacher, a policeman, whatever it might be, which is one's occupation, materially speaking, but then our eternal occupation is as servants of God, whatever name you use for God. That's our eternal occupation. And this practice is about living in accordance with that truth and principle, ultimately. And so he was saying, he was saying Christianity, Islam, they all seem quite practical. What you're saying seems like it's purely spiritual activity, Yeah, but I said, no, it's actually quite the opposite. Like, the idea is that every activity can be spiritualized. Like these microphones that we're using, right now they're spiritual because we're using them to try and share spiritual knowledge. If we were speaking about the West Ham game that's going on right now, which is fine. That's material, So it's, and that's the beauty of bhakti. Any activity you can be spiritualized, and therefore anybody who's interested in anything can be engaged spiritually, because you can spiritualize your activity if you're doing it in the mood of service to. It's really wonderful. And we've got a New Year's episode, I guess, next week, don't we? We can speak about some New Year's resolutions.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I haven't thought about it so much, but I probably should.
Yeah, but we can save that for next week. I think hopefully this was helpful for people listening, in terms of how to navigate the cuffing season.
I feel so old that I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
I'm
either.
not old at all, but I feel like an old man.
I don't know, I just heard it. Like, I think it's like a British thing, probably, but I don't know why you didn't know.
No.
You're too pure.
Yeah, we'll find out when people listen to this to be like, you didn't know that about cuffing?
Maybe no one knows. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Maybe it's just a private school thing, anyway.
Maybe it's just an Eton thing.
Don't expose me like that. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of the Christmas period. There are 12 days of Christmas, they say. And see you on the next one. Thank you very much, guys.
Help a mother.